Hey guys, this is Jay Calder with JAYONBOXING here, giving you a personal prediction for Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo. And as always, this is just my take. Of course, your predictions can be left down in the comments section below. One of the biggest fights of the year, so definitely want to hear all your thoughts, your predictions, your bets down in the comments section below. And a little bit of fight info here. As mentioned, we have Canelo Alvarez taking on Jermell Charlo. This will be at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, airing live on pay-per-view in the super middleweight division, with all of the gold currently possessed by Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds on the line. So for me, this is a fascinating fight. Two of the more accomplished fighters of this era getting it on. Yet you would have assumed the size differential would have never allowed for something like this to happen. Still, as the fight draws closer, I get more and more curious as to whether or not Charlo can actually pull this one off. Effectively, if both were the same size for their careers basically as a whole, I think Charlo has the sort of skills that allow for him to pull it off. Possibly. That said, size plays a part in fights. There are divisions for a reason, and 14 pounds is nothing to sneeze at, with Charlo coming up from junior middleweight. So, with all of that in mind, you have to wonder, will the power and that aforementioned size carry Canelo to victory, or will the skill and craftiness of Charlo pull off the huge upset? Let's break this one down. Starting with the champion, for Canelo to win, I think you want to make the size matter. You're the bigger guy, naturally heavier handed. This is pretty important that you remember this and know this, because you have to make it work in the fight for you for it to matter at all. If you're not imposing your size, it really just doesn't make a difference, and it becomes a skill fight, and you give Charlo a much better chance. It doesn't mean you just use your power or rely on that, though that's going to be part of it at times, but it means you have to kind of boss him around, land those heavier shots, make him feel the weight of the blows as you're landing anywhere, whether it's his arm, the sides of him, whatever it might be. It also means you do need to get inside and kind of let your hands go. Force the exchanges out of him when he's feeling pressed. This can pay off for you as those bigger blows land later on in the contest during exchanges. And of course, this doesn't mean that you abandon your skills and just try to be some kind of brute in there, but what it does mean is you have to implement those sort of aggressive tactics to make this more of a fight where size will be important, because that's obviously going to benefit the bigger man. I would also say keep the left hook busy. You have a very good left hook, and it's one of those shots that can land with power, but can also be a setup punch for that right hand. When used as a setup, that's great, because then a straight right hand is the shot you can really step in with and kind of take away some of that reach disadvantage that's there for you. You will be able to get in a bit closer as he's trying to fend off that left and land straight down the middle with that right. But just as its kind of own shot on its own, it will work as well. Charlo has been caught with left hooks, has been buzzed by them in the past, and this is certainly a shot you throw well enough with enough force that it can trouble him if it lands often enough. It's a shot you throw well, it's a shot you can vary up enough to kind of confuse him or make him wonder where it's coming from, and it's a shot that he's been caught with in the past. It certainly needs to be implemented in this contest and can certainly be thrown to the body as well. And as I was sort of alluding to there, don't neglect the body. The left hook definitely is a shot that you can aim kind of lower and bring the guard down, but also just kind of tax Charlo at times. And this is certainly something that I think can benefit you if Charlo has perhaps some kind of struggles with carrying the extra weight, feels those heavier legs. With that new fighting weight, those shots to the body might have even more of an effect, because he's just not as comfortable as he might have been at a lower weight class. In my opinion, Charlo is going to need his movement to win. Barring something crazy shocking where he just happens to land the perfect blow that hurts the usually iron-chinned Canelo, I think he's going to need to try and box in this fight. That body attack can slow that down and make this a lot easier for you if you're Canelo. Now, switching over to the challenger, for Charlo to win, I think you want to get off to a quick start. You can't be timid. You can't let the moment get to you. You can't shell up and try to fight this perfect fight where you don't take at least some chances to try to put yourself in the best position to take control of this fight. And this is going to be true for a number of reasons. For starters, Canelo can begin fights a bit slowly, so some of those kind of perhaps easier rounds to steal or just outright win might be early on. If you give those away, you're just now chasing the fight against a bigger man that's kind of warmed up now. There's really no need to do that. But it's also just kind of a trend setter in the fight. You can't give Canelo reason to think he just mows you over, or he will. You have to show him that you can land, that you have at least respectable pop, and that you can take control of fights, at least in spurts, against him. This will begin to make Canelo chase a bit more. He might make more mistakes, allow for you to have better countering opportunities, and pile up the points as the fight wears on. I will also say that left hand is key. Charlo has a solid jab. and it will be needed on the night. But he can also do some interesting things with it in terms of its variety. Charlo will need to use the jab, sometimes double it up, and when Canelo begins to press a bit more, he can even triple it at times and just kind of circle away. I would also say stab to the body with that jab, just keep it busy, make it quick, and I think you'll have the chance to really score with it, and at the very least kind of force Canelo to have to deal with something. You just can't be lazy with it, because that is a shot that Canelo can counter pretty well when someone throws out a lazier jab. But the left hand can also be used as a swiping left hook, and that's important in this fight too. You probably don't want to trade massive left hands or even kind of risk that against Canelo, but if you can kind of use it in that swiping motions from range where you're a little bit further out but can still land because of your reach advantage, I think it might be worthwhile to kind of try that in this contest. And finally, I would say keep Canelo outside. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't fend him off in burst when Canelo does manage to cut off the ring and kind of get in close and cut those kind of grounds a bit for you. But what it does mean is you're going to be coming up 14 pounds, and you don't want it to be such a physical fight that you're relying upon the physicality, especially not bell to bell. That just doesn't suit you. Perhaps you're going to take through this new division pretty well, and it might actually benefit you and make you stronger and faster and less drained and all those great things, but it still doesn't mean you're trying to test this theory out by taking shots on the inside in a rougher fight than it needs to be. As mentioned, that jab will be important. It'll push him back, create the distance you need to kind of make sure that you stay off the ropes and you can use those angles and make sure that Canelo doesn't get much closer. You don't want it to be a fight that's constantly on the inside because that favors the Mexican, and of course, you're trying to do the opposite of that and make sure you're finding the range that best suits you. Now, in terms of my pick here, I'm a big Charlo supporter, but this might be a step too far, and I'm rolling with Canelo in this one. While Canelo has perhaps lost a step recently, I think the size and power will make up for that little bit of a slip, mixed with the fact that he still has solid skills and will ultimately catch Charlo late in this contest. Charlo starts well, landing clean and getting into something of a groove. However, as Canelo presses and begins to get closer in those early to middle frames, the left hand will begin to do damage. Canelo blasts to the body with the lefts, slows Charlo down, presses him into the ropes more and more, and that becomes a theme in this fight. Still, Charlo will get his shots in as well, particularly that quick right hand and the sweeping left, because he isn't going to go without a fight, I don't believe. Still, during the exchanges, the lefts of Canelo will land harder, making more of a mark and ultimately calling a halt to the action in a fairly competitive encounter. Winner, Canelo via mid to probably late fight stoppage. Now, in terms of the betting odds here, Canelo is, of course, a sizable favor, coming in at a minus 430, with Charlo coming in at a plus 300. And again, you can find slightly different odds for this fight at various books, but that's what I'm kind of going with here. Really, unless you're a big believer in Charlo and want to call something of an upset here, not a great deal of value in either of these money lines. But for the most part, I would say they're set fairly respectfully, if you will. Canelo should be the favorite, but they're actually giving Charlo credit for the fact that he is what I would genuinely call a real fighter who does have a chance in pretty much any fight you put him in within reason. In terms of the over-under, it's set at 10.5 rounds, with the over coming in at a minus 325 and the under coming in at a plus 230. This is where I think the value is personally. I do believe in the under in this particular case. Could be wrong, but I just have a strong feeling, and if I was me laying a bet there, I would be thinking a pretty sizable bet there, a mid to maybe even a slightly bigger bet there, just because I do get the sense that whoever wins this fight, it's going to happen by stoppage. So that's what I'd be going with there, but in any event, those are your odds. And my prediction record as of this recording is 28-12 with 18 exact. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Of course, love to hear your thoughts, predictions, your bets, so on and so forth. Of course, you can check out all the social media here, as you can see on the screen. And of course, be sure to visit JAYONBOXING.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, all that good stuff. And as always, until next time.